friends, this is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average Canadian wolf pack come together to talk about life's stresses, messes, and successes. A safe space where being yourself is the ultimate goal. Each week we will bring you new episodes, sharing our experiences on a ton of different topics, in hopes we get a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and this crazy world we live in. We want to build a community where we can show up as ourselves, be real, and lay it all out there. By sharing our experiences, we hope to reach others who can relate so we can all help each other learn, grow, and heal. But please keep in mind, as a disclaimer, none of us here are professionals, no one is giving any advice. We are strictly speaking of our life experiences and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome back to the Be Real Babe podcast. I am your host, Brandy, and with me here today is my beautiful co-host, Kayla. Hey girl.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, I am just so excited for this episode because you guys, we're going to do a bit of different today, a little new. We're going to flip the mic around and Kayla is going to host this episode because this is definitely something that she's very passionate about. But before I do that, I just wanted to stop and take a second and thank every single one of you that has tuned into any episode, liked anything on any of our social platforms. It gives us so much fuel for our fire to keep going. So please, always welcome to bring that in. And if you guys can, if you have time, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you have time, leave us a review. This is such a good pitch. Leave us a review.
No, it is.
Because that helps. It helps us get on the new and noteworthy pages, and it kind of boosts us out to more people. So if you can leave a review, we would love to hear your feedback. Anyways, I could go off forever about how much I appreciate you guys, but I'm going to pass the mic back to my girl Kayla and let her take care of the show today.
All right. So basically, we're just going to do it like we do every other show. I'm just leading a few of the explanations and things like that. So I'm going to jump in and give you guys the internet's vague description of depression. Clinical depression is a complex mood disorder caused by various factors, including genetic predisposition, personality, stress, and brain chemistry. Treatments for this include psychoeducation, psychotherapy, pharmacotherapy, and brain stimulation therapies. So to back that up a little bit, psychoeducation is basically informed knowledge about your condition, I would say. Psychotherapy is where you're seeing a therapist, and then pharmacotherapy is the combination of drugs and therapy at the same time. And obviously brain stimulation, we're going to get into it. Here it says electroconvulsive therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and magnetic seizure therapy. So these are all things that have to do with the brain and tweaking it so that it's, you're not having those crazy states of depression. It's much more than simple unhappiness. Like it's really, you cannot really even fully describe it there. That's how I would say it. Because everyone goes through days where they're just having, like a bad day. Everyone has a bad day, but like depression is something that's like lingering, it lingers. You're continually waking up in those thoughts, and then it's day after day, and then some week after week, and then month after month. Like it just takes you essentially. So clinical depression, sometimes called major depression, is a complex mood disorder, again, caused by various factors, including your genetic predisposition, so male, female, or anything other in between, personality, stress, and brain chemistry. For the brain chemistry one, it's you're lacking certain components in there that I'm really doing so well describing this. I didn't think about
Yeah.
But there's a chemical imbalance. There we go. Thank you, brain, for coming back to me. You have and it's just because like some people are like, well, I don't know how you got depressed. And it's like, I'm going to honestly, I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to give you guys a brief. I know I said in the very beginning, I wouldn't talk about it, but like I have some facts now backing up my early childhood. And when reading through it, it was like really dense and heavy stuff to go through, but it really put a picture and image to why I was making a lot of the choices I was making. And it was like, so many things are predetermined in your infant life, like infant to early childhood. So depending on what your circumstances are in those years of your life really depicts your future. Like, I can't even stress that enough. I made so many choices and was like, why the fuck would I do that? Like, why would I fucking do that? Like, I'm a smart person. Like, why would I put myself in that position, or why would I do that thing, you know? And it's like, I'm not saying I'm blaming every stupid choice I made on my depression, but like, after I didn't find out that I even had it and that it was a chronic form of it until I was in my late 20s. So piecing it all back together in my whole life, I'm like, okay, this really fucking makes sense. Like, okay, I didn't like, you know, and it wasn't by choice. It was just like, how do I put this into words? I witnessed the things that I witnessed in my childhood set the tone for my life choices in a big way. Like, there was a lot of dysfunction, and there was abuse, and there was substance abuse, and there was, like, you know, going from multiple different places and things never being certain. Like, obviously that's going to create quite a catastrophic, like, system of events later on, because I've that's how I've learned how to function. I've learned how to function in situations of chaos and dysfunction. Like, and that's not normal. So I just want to say that, like, that's not normal in any means. And for anyone out there that's experienced that, like, I know we all have traumatic things that happen to us, but you know, there are certain things like that just really just set you up for a fucking like gong show, honestly. So I think that's pretty much where no
It's a good wrap up
yeah.
of what it is. And like, I'll just say, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know how to say, I don't have experience as much with depression like we've talked in the past. Like we said with in Hillary's anxiety one, is that, you know, I've definitely had my deep and dark times, but I've not had where I would feel like I have enough experience to talk about this for someone to, you know, take anything away. So that was a really great kind of roundabout way to look at how to look at it from the outside, I guess. So you did a great job. Don't worry. I know you always stress it, but you did so
I
good.
just stress out so hard. I'm like, I really want to make sure I'm being clear and informative and like getting my point across without like dragging it out and mixing things up, because, you know, I get excited and I'm like, oh, did I miss something?
And when have we ever been upset about having a long episode?
I don't think we are. I don't think our listeners are.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So the way I look at it is we could pump out like a bunch of half an hour ones, or we can pump out a couple hours and you just hit pause and come back to it. And I think that's what we designed this for, is for the experience. So like we said, we've opened the floor, and it's a hard one, you know, yourself trying to talk about this was, you know, it opens up things that, you know, maybe you have dealt with or you haven't. You know, for myself, I definitely, the anxiety one was just, you know, I was really anxious for that release. And I don't know if that's just ironic or, but I think because that one is kind of like the one that means the most to me. That's like my biggest fight. So I know that was the same for you with depression. But it's been really inspiring to listen to you, and also, yeah, Courtney, to hear, you know, like something that I don't relate to, but how strong you guys are. Like, it's still super motivating to still keep fighting, you know, to fight the patterns that my brain does with just a different side of the spectrum with you both, which you both deal with too. So it's just super enlightening to hear.
I honestly really enjoyed her interview. I really enjoyed like the part where she talked about having depression, not doing anything about it, and then having birth, like giving birth, and how it just literally, like, it literally, guys, it snowballs. So it's something that you cannot, honestly, I'm not going to try and tell anyone to be a warrior here. Don't try and fight it on your own. If you need to get out of the state of mind that you're in, you're going to need to have some major tools, and like tools can be support, therapy, like I said, medication, and we'll get into it more, but you can't, don't try and face it on your own is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it takes a community, and Like, and you both said, and Hillary too, like, and it's not funny, but it's so ironic because it just makes you believe that like once you share that with someone, it's putting that weight on them. But a lot of the time, this is probably actually more relieving for both of you. So that person
Yeah.
understands what's going on. And that's why I said with Courtney's, you know, like if she didn't communicate with her husband what was going on, there's a good chance that he could be thinking, what have I done or whatever. And it had nothing to do with that. But them communicating broke that potential, you know, catastrophe gone. And I think that that's missing in a lot of situations. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I know for myself in the past, it was like, wow, if I just communicated that, I would have saved myself so much grief.
And it's crazy. Like, you think it sounds so easy if I would have just communicated, but when you're in the heat of that moment, it is so hard to like analyze anything because you've already pre-convinced yourself of something and you've gone down the spiral of that, and it just takes you.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, we've said I've been down like in my deep spots, but I haven't, I think after my divorce, that was probably, if I was to say, as close to a depressive experience that I've had. But like we talked about, I'm super high functioning. So it's almost not, and that, hey, maybe that's a form of depression too, where I just don't let myself drop down like that. I don't, but yeah.
No, I think it's a good thing to talk about. Like what did I call it? Compartmentalizing. It's just the way that you process it. And for you, it sounds like you have just a little bit more ability in your mind in any given situation to be logical and practical about like what you're going to allow energy to consume you. So that alone is very impressive, and that's attainable for anyone out there listening. Trust me, that's attainable. I am on the cusp of getting to that place. So
you are, and I think what's going to be so exciting for this community is watching all of us evolve from this too, from these very first episodes to how we've like recognized things and just like ripping things open. And you're right there. And I mean, like the last, like we'll say state that you had, like we got you through that. We talked it out. We and say you were, you know, dialed back, let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago in the said same situation. I know for me, I would not have handled this situation the same way, or, you know, I probably would have done 10 times more destruction. So it's like, it's inspiring and empowering for you guys to see that growth and using it more as like a superpower, a signal, like identifying what it is and being more critical thinking as to like, does this need for me to have a fucking meltdown?
Exactly.
Is this a 10 or higher, bro? That's like one of my favorite new things. I got that off of How I Met Your Mother when they have Lily and Marshall have their kid and they're like 10 or higher, bro, or 8 or higher, something like that, something around there. I would say 10. So I'm like, and I'm not always like that, but I think like we had said early on, my mom was very, very, and she'll probably agree, like she was very trying to figure us out. So it was just like very open about all things that we could have because she was just learning about all of this. So she gave us like a million different tools because we're all trying to figure out like, okay, well, obviously we all have some form of mental illness, but like what? They all have decently similar things while completely opposite. And then some things trigger things more. And it's like such a complex thing. I think I was very, very, very lucky to have that at a younger, you know, age, whether I accepted it or not, it was subconsciously there. And so, if your guys are listening, I'm not, like I said, I can't relate to the depression, but when I had my worst, I just had to keep remembering this is temporary. And I think just using those tools that I knew for anxiety just have always helped me stay. And I'm just so fucking hyper. I know that doesn't always have to do with it, but
no, it's relatable.
I'm like a hummingbird.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Do they stop? I don't think so.
I'm also like, I have tendencies like that. I'm starting to notice myself slow down a lot more. And I think it's just because my body, like, I don't know, my body is like, it likes to be high functioning, but not all the time. Like my body will yell at me. Like I do like to have my chill time now. I'm getting to that place where I like to be like, I'm okay if I don't have anything to do, that kind of thing. Like it's very unusual, but like I find it very peaceful. And I know from like last week to this week, like last week was a super weird week. I lost my grandpa and you know, it's a strange thing. And as an adult in the place that I'm at now, like I had Brandy and I had a few other people that I talked to about it, and it was awesome, like to have the support and stuff. And like, it was a weird week. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I need to be a little better. Like, how can I clean up my stuff? So I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then I set myself up so that I wasn't behind, and I was able to like communicate that with Brandy, and it was just amazing. And like this week I'm super focused, and I'm just like thankful. Like I'm looking back at last week and I'm like, okay, all right, so I'm human. I get, you know, it's people die. You're going to it's okay to be sad about it, but you don't have to let the sad like carry you into a place where you can't come out of, you know what I mean? So I relate to that, like what you're saying, like your mom sounds freaking awesome. Like I'm just going to go out and say that, and I hope she hears me say it, because she sounds awesome. And it's really funny too how you said like whether you wanted to hear it or whether, you know, it was always there. So I love that. Because again, you know, my parents were always so amazing. Looking back, when I peel away all the layers of everything and I'm looking back, I'm like, they were always telling me these things. It's just, I wasn't in a space to hear it. I didn't know how to hear it. No. So I had to come out of it, and I had to learn this and I had to learn that. And now I'm looking back, like our parents were great. So thank you guys, parents.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
Hoorah.
Our parents are cool. Well, and look at us now though, right? And I know that they all, like, I know my mom and I know my family is super proud of all of this things that we're trying to do and all the friends in the family. And I think it's such a, you could probably meet her, because if you guys come up when we talk, she might still
totally.
actually be here.
I'm totally into that.
We'll have to make that happen. Yeah, it would be awesome. And obviously one day I'll push her to be on here.
Be cool.
You heard that, right, Mom? But I wanted to say this before my stoner brain forgets about what you were saying about how you're slowing down now, and you're being okay with it. Do you think that's because you're in a better place with your depression, whereas before that stopping and relaxing was almost like you had no choice and you were forced to because of how, you know, where your mind was at, where it's like now you're in a better place with it, so you know if you're taking time to relax that it's like it's honoring yourself instead of something where you feel like it's like a negative
100%. You hit it right on the head. It is 100% that. So part of my situation, my depression, it was like figuring everything out, giving everything, like, let's talk about it like I'm like, my brain's a computer. We're going to have folders that are going to be labeled, and each one is going to go into description of this, that, and the other thing. And it's like when you have many things combating against you, like I have anxiety and I do have depression, or I've been diagnosed with chronic depression. So it's like my trauma response was that I can't be unbusy, because then I have time to think about all the shit that makes me sad and want, you know, I can't be there. I can't go there. So I have to be busy. So 100%, I have now come to a place where I've learned how to work through my triggers, figure out what needs my energy and what doesn't. And I know now that when I'm taking time to rest, that is, honest to God, just time for me to sit down and breathe, because I'm a busy human. I like to be busy. I've taken on a lot of things, and it's just like, you know, so yeah, to answer your question, 100% yes. It's because
I know that for me as like the high functioning part, I think is more where it's like if I'm sitting down and relaxing, it means I'm not working towards my goals.
And I can see that.
And I have to have a million, because I have to just and honestly, I figured this out a couple years ago. The reason why I try to suck so much out of life and be a part of so many things all the time is because I lost friends at a really young age. And I think that the biggest thing for me, and I think the biggest reason I cannot get to that depression, is that not that anybody that has it isn't grateful for their lives, do not get me wrong, but when it was just like every 2 years someone passed away, and it was just like such a like, in different ways. So it was like, wow, I'm like really, I think about them and I'm past their age now, that when they passed, and it was like, they didn't get this. Like, I'm so fucking lucky that I got my 30s and my end of my 20s. And, you know, I get to, you know, see old age, hopefully, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's just kind of one of those things that when I'm feeling down, I think about how, like, it's the same thing I did with the gym. When I wasn't motivated, I would think of someone like my mom who has fibromyalgia that can't do that. but wants to so bad. And it's like, I will go for her because I'm not like, obviously have your fucking rest days and there's been bad points, and we'll get into fitness next month. But, you know, on those days where you're like, I have no excuse, I'm just being lazy. I'm like, well, my mom couldn't do it, so I'm going to do it for her. Or someone, you know, that has broken legs can't do it and probably wants to, like, I'm going to do that for that person.
So would you say, like, to kind of tie that in, like, you would, you shifted the way that you were thinking about it. Instead of I have to go to the gym, it's I get to go to the gym. Instead of I have to do this, I get to do this. I have the privilege of doing this. Okay, yeah, same here, same thing. Okay.
Yeah, so everything is, I think that was a huge thing right after my divorce. I found, like, and I don't believe everything of the law of attraction and The Secret, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but once I shifted my mindset and I started dissecting my mindset patterns and like how I was thinking and why I was always in a like lacking and jealous and wanting more, and like I was like, what? I couldn't satisfy that, so I had to figure out
coming from. So yeah, you break it down.
Where it's coming from. So yeah, so then I was just like, I just noticed that I felt like I was lacking a lot. So if you feel like you're lacking, then what's the opposite of that? Like having an abundance.
Exactly.
And abundance is being grateful for everything you have, because we are very abundant in our lives. If we're breathing, if we're living, if we have a house, like there is, if you start writing out 10, and that's what it was The Secret, and you wrote out 10 things you're grateful for every day, and you don't just write them down, you write them down and you think about them and you say thank you in like in your soul, and you really like absorb that. And some days it was like, okay, this is hard, but then you started getting really fucking detailed. Like, I'm grateful for my legs because they're long and they get me places, and I'm grateful for my feet because I put them through hell, or you know. And it was just, once you started seeing, and then it was called, sorry, not The Secret, but The Magic is what I got a book, and it was just like seeing the magic of life again. And once that kind of just opened me up to seeing, like, I just had these really dark fucking glasses on about the world, and once I just switched to lighter glasses and seen, I don't know, maybe it was like fucking a Molly trip, and it was like, woo, everything's beautiful. Not really, not toxic, but where it was just like, okay, if you focus on everything negative in life, then of course 100%. You're going to feel negative. There's not ignoring it, that's ignorant. But if that's all you focus on, then that's really what you're going to attract.
Be aware, but don't like let it consume you.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, and I bet you say that when you didn't feel in your journey that you were worthy of good people, you always attracted bad people, which triggered all of these mental illnesses, and that didn't force you to level up, 100%. Right? Or look into it. And now you accept that. So you're bringing it in, you're getting people around you that are like, no, Kay, like you're great, you know, and now you're fucking unstoppable. You still have the same shit you had years ago.
And it's it's amazing. And it's, yeah, I agree. It's crazy to think about like all the, I don't know. I actually had a conversation with a girlfriend because I was honestly, I was like, I was starting to worry. You know, a couple of days go by and I was waking up and it was like, the heavy starts to set in and it feels like, you know, I'm honestly going to say it feels like someone's putting like a boulder on your chest and it's slowly like crushing like your air out. And I know that's like dramatic, but that's kind of my description of like, you know, I would consider that to be getting along lines of depression. And so I was kind of wondering, I was like, I started to second guess myself. So that's like one of the things. I was kind of like, did I do the wrong thing? You know, I stopped going to therapy. I'm not taking medication anymore. So I started to question myself and I'm like, oh my God, did I fuck my life up? And I'm like, no, bitch, no, like you got this, you have this, you stopped those things for a reason. There were reasons that you stopped doing that. The medication made me numb to everything. So say someone was being rude to me, I just let it go. That's not human, that's robotic. So I was like, no, thank you. And I came off unmedically and that's not the way to do it either. But like I did it and I'm okay. You know, I'm all right. And I just said, I'm like, my girlfriend said to me, she said, I don't think that you did the wrong thing. And I also don't think that this is a full on depressive episode. Like, I think that you're sad. You had a loss and you're just kind of going through the emotion of it. And one of the things I'm noticing is that initially someone telling me about death is not alarming. I don't go into anything. I kind of feel nothing, which is very strange, I think, but whatever. And then it takes a couple days, and like it did. So I talked to everybody, and I was like weird because I was working out when I got the news, and it was like strange. I'm working out for myself and I'm doing things and I'm smiling, and I was like, this is really weird. And I just thought nothing of it. And then a couple days go by and I started to feel it. And then I worked through it, and I had people, like I had Brandy to talk to too. And it was just nice, but it made me feel better. And then I realized, no, like, I don't think that was going that far. And I'm actually really proud to say, and I feel great to say that, like, I had a few days where it was low, but I was able to come back up. And that's something I don't think I ever would have managed to get to had I not done therapy, had I not done medication, had I not started looking within and trying to figure out what was what and all that crap. So
totally. And thinking more analytically, and like we said, it's like a puzzle, and you just want to figure it out. Yeah, no, I love that. And it's the turnaround's a lot
quicker,
lot quicker. Yeah. And that's the same thing with me with what we're talking about in body image. Like, I still have those moments, and I still will. Some are longer than others, but usually it's just like, now it's like, okay,
yeah, they don't consume you anymore, which is like so magic. I love it.
And then eventually, maybe
and you know what? That's like such a hopeful thing. And I'm like, I'm also in the mind space where it's like, it's okay if it's not ever gone too. Like, I'm learning how to just function better and cope better and do all these things better.
It's easier just learning to let it go, like, and call it what it is, and be like, oh, that wasn't my best week, but not all of them have to be shining stars. That just makes the other ones shine. I just
told my son that. I was like, honestly, I said, he said something kind of like harsh about himself, and I was like, so I reiterated. I was like, what did he say? He said, I'm a bad kid sometimes. And I said, I'm a bad mom sometimes. And he said, he kind of looked at me, and I said, do you want to know why I said that? And he's like, why? And I was like, because sometimes we feel certain ways and we aren't always at our best. And I said, but those days aren't anything to like worth holding on to forever. Like, it's not worth beating yourself up over. It's, acknowledge that it's happening and then move past it. And it was kind of nice. It was a nice moment.
Yeah. It's nice to just be honest and real.
Exactly.
Babe.
We're as real as it gets, I think.
That little, hey, hashtag be real, babe.
Shout out.
Just kidding. Should we
totally okay. So yeah, Brandy and I do the usual thing that we do, and we did polls. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask the poll questions, and Brandy's gonna give us our answers. So if you're ready, I will start. The first one, this was again we did on Instagram. So have you been diagnosed with depression?
So 42% said yes, and 58% said no. So that was the opposite with anxiety. It was the majority, and like quite the large majority, I believe, was. And same with body image issues. So that's interesting. But that's being diagnosed, though, right? That's not necessarily saying that they've not experienced it. I should have. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I just picked that because it's like, I don't know. I figure most people go to the doctor and then are diagnosed, and that's how they find out. Because it's like but I mean, you're going to hear the show. You're going to be able to research yourself. Like, you'd probably be able to know if you were like getting symptoms of depression. So it's kind of that one. I just picked diagnose because
no, it would be an interesting one to do next time. It's just like I know, I guess I did. If you said no, do you feel like it was with a diagnosis?
Oh yeah, right there. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So woohoo, it rolls us into our next one.
Donors. We were smarter than we thought.
I know. And then we get like, we have a little toke here and there, and it's like, oh, blah.
Right. So I guess my point being is, so if the next one is asking if you feel like you have it without a diagnosis, and there's 33% that said yes. So technically, if you added that 33% of yes to the 43% that said yes, then the majority would feel like they have depression, either diagnosed or undiagnosed.
Okay. All right. That makes perfect sense. Actually, that's a good way to break it down for us.
Yes. I was like, I know I did this for a reason, because I was just like, I was curious at the time, and then I was curious here, and now I got the answer. I love past Brandy right now. She came in
very smart and super like good with the way that you set things up. So I love it. The next one.
I think that comes from my survivor mode. I just have to be super.
No, and it's great because it really just it makes this super simple, like for us to come on and just like shoot the shit about it. Like I'm gonna go into the third one. Yeah. If you said yes, do you suffer from major depression, persistent depressive disorder, or more commonly known as chronic, postpartum, or other?
So major depression
nice.
was
Okay.
3. Chronic depression was 1. Postpartum depression was 2. And then other was 12. So I'm very curious. I should have put like a box that said.
Okay, so a little bit for everybody, like and this is something that I just learned. I didn't know. I'm in school and I'm learning it, and then also researching myself for the podcast. But other is kind of one other form is also bipolar disorder. That is a type of depression.
Right.
Seasonal?
Seasonal.
Oh, no, I don't think we did. Nope, I did not say seasonal. So seasonal one is also where depending on the season, you get it. Everyone knows wintertime makes everyone sad.
Yeah. So I think that people that have never lived in more of a northern hemisphere quite understand that. Like I never quite understood that when I lived on the island and I moved up to Grand Prairie.
Yeah,
it was quite a difference.
I would also. Sorry.
This season. No, that's okay. I think for you, and we're
that's what I was going to say.
Where, I mean, there is some.
It's not as bad though.
I was very ignorant. Yeah, I was very ignorant to think that BC wouldn't have it again. Like I even fucking lived here for 20 years, but I thought, oh, I'm not going to have seasonal depression. I mean, you still get it, but it's not as long. So like now it's already, sorry guys, 14, 15 degrees here. And so it's like, okay, it's about summer. In like a month, it's going to be super nice. So that's a huge one that I think people relate to more, especially most of our viewers and fans are in Grand Prairie. We love you. Sorry, you're dealing with cold. But I think they would relate to that the most, the seasonal depression. So that was interesting. I should have put other, and I wonder, because most of the people that answered were from Grand Prairie. Fuck, Brandy. Okay,
we'll all work it all out in the future episodes. I think it's kidding. Yeah. I also could have helped you a little more too on that in that regard, because I was like, that's where I got lost in the definition in the beginning, and I was like, how do I set this up so that she has all the things that she needs in all the places? And my brain was like, failing.
No, and then all of a sudden it's like the performance anxiety kicks in. You're
right.
Like, oh,
that is next level shit right there.
Great. But I'm just like learning, so like we're learning about this as we go in now. I'm just getting like,
totally
right into it.
It's super informative. It's helpful.
I just want to help people.
Exactly. So we're sharing knowledge, and like this is pretty common, I would say, especially after the year we just had. I think a lot of people experienced a lot of different things that they maybe never had ever felt comfortable admitting before. And I think that's kind of beautiful too. Everyone kind of being all on the same page, where it's like, what the fuck happened last year? What?
We don't talk about 2020.
I'm just going to erase that from the old memory bank. And so moving on, our next question was, does this affect your day-to-day life?
61% said yes, and 39% said no.
Quite
a majority, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
would be fair. It definitely affected my day-to-day life when it was at its more crippling effects. So then for our viewers, we were asking, how do you manage your depression?
So there was A, working on it, which was 5. B, medicinally, which was 4. Naturally was 5, and other was 2. So there was also, if other, please tell us. So there's therapist, yoga, meditation, reading, silence, and working out, and relying on your spouses. I think that's like,
I like that. And I like how the majority holder on the beginning was all stuff to do with mindfulness, like what you're reading, doing yoga is like beneficial for not just your mind but your body. Meditation is good for like getting to those calm states. Like those are all really, and I mocked it for the longest time, but they are really, really useful tactics and tools for managing like mood disorders. Okay, so we're gonna go boop boop to the next one. How old were you when you noticed you were depressed? Sorry, that's not funny but
It is funny your noises that you make, because I do the same thing when I kind of forget and I'm trying to like, okay, where am I? So I'm just gonna make these weird noises or talk about something till I can like connect
yes,
to where I
exactly.
am. So I was like, okay,
Perfect.
I do that too.
Um,
So
yeah, I'll
sorry,
just
did
go
you
ahead and
ask it?
ask
I
it
forgot
again. So
already.
how old were you when you noticed that you were
Okay, good.
depressed? And then Brandy will take us through. We have a few different variations of ages because it happens to all of us.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And so this also has to do with our demographic, right? So obviously we appeal to more people in their 20s and 30s because that's more our age. But based on our peers on Instagram, there was a 5 to 20, which was 14, 21 to 30, there was 4, 31 to 40 is 1,
Hmm.
and 41 plus is 0. But what I find interesting is that our majority of people are between 20 to 40, but most of the people that answered it was between like your kid
Huh.
and your teenage years.
Interesting.
Which I mean, if you think about how many, so I maybe I wonder if it has to do if like depression is something necessarily that you're born with, or is it like a traumatic event or a series of events or something that's when it happens. So it's like
Yep.
between that formidable age, everything's changing so much between 5 and 20, right? Like, yeah, it changes between 20 and 30, but like think of a
Oh,
5-year-old to a
oh
20-year-old,
yeah.
like that's a
And then
huge
I think I
fucking
honestly
like
answered that one
difference.
wrong. I think I answered it 21 to 30 because I was clinically diagnosed with it at like 26 or 27. But I noticed it, I would say the earliest would be grade 7, grade 8. And you're young. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
5 to 20 is the formidable time where you would, I always thought like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, why the hell am I so damn sad? Why can't I just get over this? And it was like always that thought just in the back of my head. And I'm like, I think it was like I wrote to a school counselor or something about it. And I was like, am I depressed? Like I was explaining my feelings. So yeah, that's funny. I think I read it wrong. And then I was like, ah.
No, it's totally fine. And then too, I think because like if you think at those ages, you're just learning so much more about life. You're, like driving, you're going to school, you have you're graduating, you're drinking for the first time. Like there's so many things I think that we're just like, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you got all your hormones as a teenager. So I think like it just is like a bag of like fucking mixture. And like you said, a lot of your stuff that you noticed in your later life happened to you at a very young age. So I mean, that's when you're probably most formidable. So it would make sense that traumatic things that triggered people into depression happen at those, like, I don't mean it's to say in a bad way, but like for me, I think about something that I cared about when I was 12 years old compared to what I care about now. And I'm like, wow, like I was upset because I couldn't buy an M&M sweater because my mom thought it was inappropriate. Well, fucking yeah,
Yeah, no, that
fair.
makes sense.
Right? So just like, okay, that's not something to care about. And not that I'm not saying that, but just like I think by the time you get to like 30, you're like,
Yep,
yeah, I know the
exactly.
world's
And I
fucked.
mean,
But
that's
like,
totally true. Like I also just didn't know I didn't know how to deal with my feelings either. I didn't know how to appropriately manage my emotions. And I mean, what kid does? But I mean, it is possible to learn. And like I'm learning because I want to teach my son so that he can grow up and not have all these things. Like having this shit is like having a mixed bag of ingredients. You got to pull everything out ingredient by ingredient and figure out where everything goes and where it's needed and what it like that kind of thing. Because when it's all mixed up like that, it's like you don't know. You don't know what you got in the bag. You could have freaking like basil and like cinnamon. Like those don't go together. Fuck. So,
no, they just fight each other. You could have Coke and what are they?
oh yeah, we just did that the other day.
Mentos or whatever.
Honestly, we did that. We made a
And you, yeah. And then then your world
yeah
gets
a
shaken
big
up, and then
explosion.
that's the result. Yeah. It's not funny. I'm sorry,
It's
guys.
our
We're
way
not
of making it
laughing. It's
light
not
because it is
something that we
heavy.
think.
So we apologize.
Yeah,
We're not trying to be
it is.
insensitive. I mean, I do
Yeah,
have
it's
depression, so it's like I'm not
no,
sitting here thinking it's hilarious, but I've made peace with the fact that it's part of my
no.
brain pattern for now.
Yeah, and like, you know what? I'm so tired for the longest time of being ashamed of like
Right?
that's how things were. And I am so tired of doing that. So I just really, for me, I think that's why I can laugh it off in a sense or certain things because, and I'm not saying anyone's there and I'm not discrediting, but when you get to that part in your life journey and stuff where you just like,
We're like,
it's not
yeah,
going
we're
anywhere.
not in the place
So,
where we're the victim to it. We're advocating it. And it's, yeah, it's
yes.
two completely different realms of your life and it takes time. So don't be in a rush.
Yeah. And we want it to be something that people are less afraid and feel alone about and more empowered to know that there are, not saying that anybody's listening isn't successful. We have so many successful people in our lives and viewing, but seeing people that are super successful and then all of a sudden you find out that they have crippling anxiety, but yet they're a public speaker. And it's like, how the hell do you use that as a power to
Yeah.
be so amazing at that, right? Like, so you want to be around or listen to those people to get those things. And once you accept it, you're going to be open to having that. And then you're going to figure out how to channel it as your superpower somehow. And like, yeah, some days suck and you're like, wow, this is the stupidest thing. I hate it. And I can't be positive and I can't find a good out of this day. And then, like you said, you go back a couple days, you're like, oh, well, I had a
Yeah.
shit day, but
Instead of like
life's great
shaming
again.
yourself and holding on to the guilt of like not being at your best
Yes.
that day, you're like, okay, well, I did the best I could with what I had and leave it at that. Like you don't have to go down the spiral staircase 1,000 times about how worthless you are, how you didn't blah, 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 fucking blah. We're not all like superhuman. And I believe like even if we were superhuman, I'm pretty sure that superhumans still have flaws. So like don't take it personally.
Totally. No. And I think, yeah, and like you said, if you have another story, another tool, or anything that can help other people, like please share it because I would love to learn more. And the more knowledge that you have about it, the more people are going to be more equipped, just like with generational growth. Like, let's teach the next generation so they don't have to go through this stupid stuff. And maybe they can realize this at 20.
No,
Maybe not, but
totally.
at least we're trying.
Okay, so then we'll roll into the next one. Is this something of the past or something you currently deal with?
So 22% said past and 78% said current.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was, 22% of people, like that's awesome to see that
Are
there is
moving out of
some,
it? Yeah.
and it's something of their
I
past.
honestly,
Yeah,
I'm
moving
just
away
gonna
from it.
like go off on my own little like personal opinion here, just so I have to state that so everyone knows like I'm not giving any like promises or anything like that. I'm just kind of speaking from my own thoughts. And I personally think that if you do the things that you need to manage your depression, like talking to someone and, if you need to get on medication, because the reason I was medicated in the first place was because I told my therapist that I could not come out of the low, that there were days where I would just cry and cry. I cried for so many days, man. And finally I was just like, I can't, I'm going to dry up. I'm going to turn into a prune. I cannot cry anymore. So I called somebody and I was just like, he was like, yeah, no, he's like, I think you're experiencing depression and it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And so the medication is supposed to help rebalance that. But, it's not a bad idea to try it. Totally. I'm not discrediting it, but I 100% think that depression is something that you can come out of if you learn the proper tools. Like you have to really be mindful of everything that you're doing. And I don't know. I think 22% is people dealing with the past. Like it's a past thing for them. I think that's awesome. And I think that more people, if we give them the right information and tools to do it, to retrain your brain, that it is 100% possible to come out of it. Like counseling or whatever is known to like regenerate brain stuff, like brain. I just learned that today, so I just wanted to say that. But yeah.
And I think too, it's everyone's journey is going to be different, right? So don't give
100%.
up until you find what works for you.
Keep fighting.
right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing.
So we're asking if I kind of shit the bed on this one because I didn't really prepare anything, but hopefully we're asking if you feel there are resources to help you.
Yeah, and this is cool. 83% said yes and 17% said no. So for your 17% throughout this week, me and Kayla will make an avid effort to try and share resources that we find online that are helpful. And of course, as always, guys, if you have anybody to share, send it to our Instagram
Yeah,
page and
and
we
I
will
mean
share that out.
it's all about getting the awareness, and if you're having a hard time, like I know we're always here. It's not really, it's not anything small to help a person out. So I mean, if you need to talk to somebody, don't hesitate to reach out, because like at the end of the day, if it's something we're not capable of dealing with, we are resourceful enough to give you a referral to something else or somewhere else where we think you could get better information.
Totally. There was one answer that came into that I really like. It was for, and it just kind of brought me to this idea too. And it's not just about depression, but there is on Instagram, on Reddit, on Discord, on Facebook, there's so many different groups that are support groups for any issue that you're going through. So one of the answers right now was a lot of her support is through her IVF community. So if you're going through something, and there's definitely tons of communities like the breast implant illness community, like there's a lot of people that are of that and helping people that are going through their situations. And obviously this one for the IVF is helpful, very helpful to one of my girlfriends. So that's amazing that, just because obviously then that way you can fully relate, but then sometimes it's hard to just walk up to a person on the street about that, right? And then I just think, like, my mom has fibromyalgia, they have a community group where they connect on social media and they talk about all their things, and I think that's something really crucial and key, is that if you can find those groups to whatever you're going through, sometimes not strangers, but people that connect that way, there's almost like there's less judgment and humility, and you get such a great bond because you're immediately showing up to be like, I need help, or I'm here to help with this. And I think that showing up like that is just such a way to connect to people. So I really empower people, if you're going through anything, look for those support groups online. Don't be afraid to share your story, even anonymously, if you have to make a fake account to just get it out. Don't, especially right now, because it's hard to just go to groups. I'm sure there's not as many groups as there used to be meeting
It'll still be virtual
in real
though,
life.
totally.
So go in anonymously. Yeah, virtual. And I think that's one of the best things that has happened to a few people that I know that are going through things, is that they find a community Facebook group, and it was like, holy shit, X amount of thousands of people are going through this, and they have all tried these things, and now all I have this information from real life people, because sometimes Googling is terrifying or wrong or
scary. Oh my gosh.
scary. So yeah, I encourage everyone to search for
they're kind of life changing. Like I'm in a few of them where I'm just like, every day I'm just I'm just thankful to be a part of it, and it's like it's so nice to have that connection in that sense.
Yeah, totally. So the last question was kind of, do you have any shareable positive influencers? And that was kind of the answers from before. So it did say 60% said yes. Nice. And I did get a couple, but we'll have to try and find more of those for us to share as resources for you guys. All right. Should we flip this around now and ask you the questions, my dear?